Hi everybody, this is Gad Saad. A few minutes ago I posted some thoughts regarding the social welfare state as we have in Canada and certainly even more so in Quebec. And so I first wanted to read that for you and then continue by reading an article that I published on my Psychology Today column back in 2011. So here we go. Please remember, Quebec/Canada has free education and free healthcare if you ignore that I nearly pay 65% of my income per year in taxes: provincial tax, federal tax, sales tax, property tax, school tax. Hence, if you ignore the fact that I'm left with 1/3 of my salary, it's totally free. Similarly, when I purchase a car for $50,000, the car is literally for free if you ignore the $50,000 that I paid for it. Similarly, my house is free if we ignore the mortgage that I pay for the next 13 trillion years. So socialism is great because the socialist leaders are indeed using your free money to parasitize you until oblivion, i.e. the system crashes. But bruh, it's free. And then I put out a kind offer because I'm a lovely guy so I wrote, "Dear Lenin, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortex, better known as Occasional Cortex, and Bolshevik Bernie Sanders, please contact me if you'd like a free lecture on this topic." So that was earlier today, and then I remembered that I had written a whole article, as I said earlier, back in 2011. I'll put a link to the article. So this is an article that titled "Communism/Socialism, quote, great idea, wrong species," close quote. And the quote comes from the great evolutionary biologist from Harvard, E.O. Wilson. So let me read you the article in question. Sit back and enjoy. Some of the numbers might have changed because, again, this was written in 2011. So for example, the sales tax figure may have changed from 2011. Then make the appropriate adjustment. But of course, the general points all stand. If anything, it's probably gotten worse since I published this. So here we go. Number one. Whereas all Canadians are heavily taxed, perhaps none are more punitively taxed than Quebecers. Most professionals have net income taxes, i.e. provincial plus federal, hovering at around 50%. We are also levied consumption sales tax at both the provincial and federal levels. The combined rate is just shy of 13% of purchases, although the Quebec rate will be increasing over the next 2 years. It has. In other words, it is insufficient that the government has already taken half of one's income. Any discretionary income that you choose to spend, the government further fleeces you. We also pay a, quote, welcome tax whenever we purchase a new home that corresponds to roughly 1% of the purchase price. Add to it the substantial property and school taxes, and many Quebecers will likely end up with roughly 30 to 35% of their yearly gross incomes. In other words, for the right to live in Quebec, many Quebecers must fork over 65 to 70% of their yearly earnings. There is absolutely nothing laudable, moral, or appealing about such a system. What is the moral precept that explains why some individuals pay more than 2/3 of their yearly income to the government, whereas other individuals with no mental or physical challenges do not contribute a single dollar to the public coffer? I should remind the readers that Canada's income tax was originally meant as a temporary measure to raise funds during World War I. We've come a long way since this temporary measure. As a slight note, many Americans, perhaps none more famously than Michael Moore, speak of the wonders of the Canadian healthcare system. Perhaps Michael Moore is unaware that many Canadians are now forced to pay for private healthcare insurance without being able to opt out of paying for public healthcare via the high income tax rate. As a matter of fact, an increasing number of social services that are provided gratis to the populace are now privately purchased. Example, a growing number of parents are now sending their kids to expensive private schools precisely because public education is rapidly deteriorating. Bottom line, Canadians continue to pay exorbitantly high taxes whilst receiving fewer services for their contributions to the public coffer. 2. My university assigns teaching loads, i.e. the number of courses that one will teach in any given year, according to the research productivity of an individual professor. The collective agreement, another mechanism that serves to create equality amongst the professoriate, restricts the minimal and maximum number of courses that are taught per year to 4 and 6 respectively. In other words, if you are Charles Darwin or Albert Einstein, you will be obligated to teach 4 courses, although in a few exceptions one could obtain further course remissions, such as by holding a research chair or serving as editor of a journal. And if you have never published a single article or book in your entire academic career, you will teach 6 courses. Hence, the reward for being an astoundingly productive scientist is at most worth 2 courses to the university. Given that it costs roughly $7,000 to hire a part-time instructor to teach a course, this effectively means that Charles Darwin or Albert Einstein are at most worth $14,000 more to the university than a colleague who has never contributed in any way to his academic discipline in terms of research output. The logic behind this policy is the incessant drive to create egalitarian outcomes. Meritocracy is bad, socialist equality is good. And by the way, the 7,000 figure, of course, would need to be slightly adjusted since this was written 9 years ago. E.O. Wilson, the 2-time Pulitzer Prize-winning author and Harvard entomologist, famously quipped regarding communism/socialism, quote, "Great idea, wrong species," close quote. Wilson spent much of his career studying social ants that possess highly egalitarian societies. All individuals are in the service of a queen who is singularly assigned the reproductive duties of the colony. Hence, short of this one queen, everyone is equal in terms of, say, their sterile status, albeit individual ants might serve different roles, and as such their responsibilities to the colony are indeed distinguishable. To return to the human context, humans are not equal in their talents, drives, capacities, and ambitions. Accordingly, institutional mechanisms that consistently seek to redistribute rewards, be it incomes, teaching loads, or any other metric, as to create egalitarian outcomes are antithetical to a defining feature of the human experience. To those readers who might otherwise be tempted to point out the is-odd problem, yes, I am familiar with it. The Canadian system can be construed as either the most gentle or the most repressive system as a function of where an individual fits within the greater cog. If you are a net beneficiary of the social ethos, example, individuals who originate from multiple generations of welfare recipients, then Canada is nirvana. On the other hand, if you are a hard-working and successful professional who is otherwise brutally taxed in endless ways, you are likely longing for greater meritocracy and less social justice. Of course, I discuss some of these ideas, for example, the difference between equality of outcomes and an ethos of meritocracy and many other such issues in The Parasitic Mind, my forthcoming book. I hope that if you've yet to pre-order it, you will do so ASAP. It truly helps in establishing the bestseller lists when the book is released. Please, if you liked what I said here, consider sharing it, post comments, and so on and so forth. Thank you for your support, and I wish you all a great day.